Clear thinking does not exist in a vacuum. Every decision, no matter how logical it appears, is guided by an underlying question, whether consciously or not. Why does this matter? When that question has no answer, thinking becomes unstable. People can reason, analyze, and optimize, yet still feel lost, drained, or directionless. Analytical thinkers understand a fundamental truth. Meaning stabilizes thinking when information, emotion, and pressure conflict. Without meaning, logic has no anchor. People often assume meaning is emotional, subjective, or optional. In reality, meaning functions as a cognitive stabilizer. It determines what deserves attention, what trade-offs are acceptable, what outcomes are worth pursuing, what sacrifices make sense. When meaning is unclear, decisions feel heavy. When meaning is clear, decisions simplify. One reason people struggle to think clearly is value ambiguity. They may know how to think, but not what matters most. This creates decision paralysis. Analytical thinkers clarify meaning first, then apply logic. Another reason meaning matters is decision endurance. Motivation fades. Willpower fluctuates. Meaning endures. When decisions align with meaning, people persist even when effort feels unrewarded. Another critical function of meaning is priority filtering. Without meaning, everything feels important. With meaning, most things become irrelevant. Analytical thinkers use meaning as a filter, not a feeling. Another reason meaning improves thinking is conflict resolution. Internal conflict drains cognition. When values clash, decisions feel impossible. Analytical thinkers reduce conflict by clarifying what they stand for. Another reason meaning matters is pressure resistance. Under stress, people abandon logic. Meaning anchors behavior when logic collapses. Analytical thinkers rely on values when reasoning capacity drops. Another function of meaning is coherence creation. Life feels fragmented without it. Analytical thinkers use meaning to connect actions across time. Another reason meaning improves thinking is regret minimization. Regret often comes from violating values, not from bad outcomes. Analytical thinkers evaluate decisions based on alignment, not success alone. Another role of meaning is identity stabilization. Without meaning, identity becomes reactive. Analytical thinkers ground identity in values rather than outcomes. Another reason meaning matters is motivation independence. Motivation depends on mood. Meaning does not. Analytical thinkers act even when motivation is absent. Another function of meaning is decision simplification. Complex choices simplify when values are clear. Analytical thinkers ask, does this align with what matters most? Does this violate anything essential? Another reason meaning improves clarity is noise resistance. External opinions lose power when internal values are strong. Analytical thinkers do not outsource meaning. Another function of meaning is long-term alignment. Short-term wins lose appeal when they conflict with purpose. Analytical thinkers choose alignment over applause. Another reason meaning stabilizes thinking is burnout prevention. Burnout is often value misalignment, not effort overload. Analytical thinkers rest when meaning erodes. Another function of meaning is directional consistency. People drift without it. Analytical thinkers move with direction even when uncertain. Another reason meaning matters is decision confidence. Confidence comes from alignment, not certainty. Analytical thinkers act decisively without knowing outcomes. Another function of meaning is boundary creation. Values create limits. Analytical thinkers say no without guilt. Another reason meaning improves thinking is emotional containment. Emotion spikes are easier to manage when values are clear. Analytical thinkers regulate emotion through purpose. Another role of meaning is trade-off clarity. Every decision sacrifices something. Meaning determines what sacrifices are acceptable. Another reason meaning matters is life integration. Work, relationships, and goals align under shared values. Analytical thinkers avoid compartmentalized living. Another function of meaning is ethical stability. Under pressure, ethics blur. Meaning anchors integrity. Another reason meaning improves thinking is resilience during failure. Failure hurts less when values remain intact. Analytical thinkers recover faster. Another role of meaning is intentional living. Without meaning, life becomes reactive. Analytical thinkers live deliberately. The core lesson of this chapter is foundational. Clear thinking requires more than logic. It requires meaning. Meaning is not motivation. It is orientation. In the next chapter, we will explore purpose versus motivation and why motivation fades, but purpose sustains effort across years. Thinking improves when it knows why it exists. Chapter 2: Purpose versus Motivation. Why one lasts and the other fails. Motivation is loud. It arrives suddenly, feels powerful, and creates a temporary surge of energy. People often mistake this surge for commitment. Purpose is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not demand action. It simply remains steady, consistent, and reliable. Analytical thinkers understand the difference. Motivation moves you today. Purpose keeps you moving tomorrow. Most people try to build their lives on motivation. This is unstable. Motivation is influenced by mood, energy, environment, emotion, external validation. When these fluctuate, motivation collapses. Purpose does not depend on any of these. It survives fatigue, boredom, uncertainty, and slow progress. One reason motivation fails is reward dependency. Motivation is fueled by anticipation of reward. When rewards are delayed or uncertain, motivation fades. Purpose does not require immediate reward. It justifies effort on its own. Another reason motivation is unreliable is emotional volatility. Motivation spikes during excitement and disappears during stress. Purpose operates independently of emotional state. Analytical thinkers act with purpose even when they feel unmotivated. Another reason motivation fails is identity inconsistency. Motivation is external. Purpose is internal. Analytical thinkers do not wait to feel like acting. They act because acting aligns with who they are. Another reason motivation collapses is comparison distortion. Seeing others progress faster kills motivation. Purpose is unaffected by comparison. Analytical thinkers compete with alignment, not others. Another factor is novelty decay. Motivation thrives on novelty. Purpose survives monotony. Analytical thinkers embrace repetition. Another reason motivation fades is outcome obsession. Motivation demands results. Purpose tolerates delay. Analytical thinkers stay committed even when outcomes lag. Another factor is decision fatigue. Motivation requires daily renewal. Purpose removes the need for daily negotiation. Analytical thinkers do not debate whether to act. They already decided. Another reason motivation fails is external validation dependency. Praise fuels motivation. Silence kills it. Purpose requires no audience. Analytical thinkers persist quietly. Another factor is pressure sensitivity. Stress drains motivation. Purpose stabilizes behavior under pressure. Analytical thinkers rely on purpose when stress rises. Another reason motivation collapses is lack of meaning. Motivation without meaning burns out. Purpose replenishes energy. Another factor is short-term orientation. Motivation focuses on immediate gains. Purpose spans years. Analytical thinkers operate on long horizons. Another reason motivation fails is ego attachment. Motivation often serves self-image. Purpose serves values. Analytical thinkers detach ego from action. Another factor is failure fragility. Motivation shatters after setbacks. Purpose absorbs failure. Analytical thinkers continue after disappointment. Another reason motivation fades is inconsistency tolerance. Motivation encourages bursts. Purpose demands consistency. Analytical thinkers choose steady effort. Another factor is emotion-driven behavior. Motivation depends on feeling ready. Purpose acts without readiness. Analytical thinkers act when needed, not when inspired. Another reason motivation collapses is reward habituation. Repeated rewards lose impact. Purpose does not rely on reward novelty. Another factor is misinterpreting resistance. Resistance kills motivation. Purpose reframes resistance as part of the process. Analytical thinkers expect resistance. Another reason motivation fails is uncertain timelines. Motivation struggles with long timelines. Purpose is comfortable with uncertainty. Analytical thinkers trust direction over deadlines. Another factor is over-reliance on discipline. Motivation often masquerades as discipline. Discipline without purpose is brittle. Purpose strengthens discipline. Another reason motivation fades is external pressure dependence. Deadlines motivate. Purpose sustains. Analytical thinkers internalize commitment. Another factor is emotion misinterpretation. Motivation fades when emotion drops. Purpose ignores emotional fluctuation. Another reason motivation fails is identity mismatch. People pursue goals that don't align with values. Purpose aligns action with identity. Another factor is burnout acceleration. Motivation-driven effort exhausts quickly. Purpose-driven effort endures. Another reason motivation collapses is misplaced urgency. Motivation rushes. Purpose paces. Analytical thinkers move deliberately. Another factor is performance fixation. Motivation depends on success. Purpose values alignment. Analytical thinkers judge effort by integrity, not applause. Another reason motivation fails is short-term emotional avoidance. Motivation avoids discomfort. Purpose tolerates discomfort. Another factor is meaning erosion. Motivation without meaning decays. Purpose is meaning. The core lesson of this chapter is this. Motivation is temporary energy. Purpose is enduring direction. Analytical thinkers do not wait to feel motivated. They act because their actions reflect what matters. In the next chapter, we will explore how values guide decisions when logic breaks down, and why values-based thinking becomes essential under pressure, uncertainty, and complexity. Motivation excites. Purpose stabilizes. Chapter 3: How values guide decisions when logic breaks down. Logic is powerful, but it is not sufficient. There are moments when information is incomplete, outcomes are uncertain, emotions are elevated, and time is limited. In these moments, logic alone cannot produce clarity. This is where most people feel stuck. They wait for more information. They overanalyze. They seek certainty that will never arrive. Analytical thinkers understand a crucial truth. When logic reaches its limit, values take over. Values are not the opposite of logic. They are the context that makes logic usable when reasoning power degrades. Logic answers the question, what is the most efficient option? Values answer the question, what kind of outcome is acceptable? When logic cannot rank options decisively, values provide direction. One reason values matter is decision incompleteness. Most real-world decisions do not have enough data to optimize perfectly. Analytical thinkers do not wait for perfect logic. They act in alignment with values when data is insufficient. Another reason values guide decisions is trade-off ambiguity. Logic can compare costs and benefits, but it cannot decide what should be sacrificed. Values determine acceptable trade-offs. Analytical thinkers know what they are willing to give up and what they are not. Another reason values matter is emotional pressure. Under stress, logical reasoning narrows. Values remain accessible. Analytical thinkers rely on values when cognitive capacity drops. Another function of values is ethical boundary setting. Logic can justify harmful outcomes. Values prevent rationalized harm. Analytical thinkers use values to constrain logic, not override it. Another reason values guide decisions is identity preservation. When decisions conflict with identity, regret follows. Analytical thinkers choose options they can live with, even if outcomes are uncertain. Another role of values is directional stability. When circumstances change rapidly, values remain constant. Analytical thinkers adjust strategy without abandoning principles. Another reason values matter is long-term coherence. Logic optimizes locally. Values optimize across time. Analytical thinkers choose actions that remain defensible years later. Another function of values is noise filtering. External opinions, incentives, and pressure distort reasoning. Values reduce susceptibility to noise. Analytical thinkers do not outsource judgment. Another reason values guide decisions is conflict resolution. When goals conflict, values determine priority. Analytical thinkers resolve conflict by ranking values, not outcomes. Another role of values is risk framing. Logic assesses probability. Values assess acceptability. Analytical thinkers avoid risks that violate core values, regardless of upside. Another reason values matter is failure interpretation. Failure aligned with values hurts less than success that violates them. Analytical thinkers recover faster when integrity is intact. Another function of values is decision speed under pressure. Values reduce deliberation time. Analytical thinkers do not reinvent standards in crises. Another reason values guide decisions is resistance to manipulation. Incentives can distort logic. Values provide resistance. Analytical thinkers recognize manipulation attempts. Another role of values is moral clarity. Ambiguous situations demand ethical anchors. Analytical thinkers rely on values to avoid moral drift. Another reason values matter is burnout prevention. Repeated value violations exhaust people. Analytical thinkers protect alignment to preserve energy. Another function of values is consistency across domains. Work, relationships, and personal goals align under shared values. Analytical thinkers avoid compartmentalized thinking. Another reason values guide decisions is acceptance of uncertainty. Values allow action without certainty. Analytical thinkers move forward without complete clarity. Another role of values is boundary enforcement. Values create non-negotiables. Analytical thinkers say no without guilt. Another reason values matter is meaning preservation. Without values, effort feels hollow. Analytical thinkers derive meaning from alignment. Another function of values is decision aftermath stability. Values reduce rumination after decisions. Analytical thinkers avoid regret spirals. Another reason values guide decisions is pressure resilience. When stakes rise, values prevent panic-driven compromise. Analytical thinkers remain grounded. Another role of values is long-term trust building. Consistency builds trust over time. Analytical thinkers act predictably in line with values. Another reason values matter is self-respect maintenance. Logic cannot produce self-respect. Values can. Analytical thinkers protect self-respect deliberately. Another function of values is directional clarity without perfection. Values guide direction even when options are flawed. Analytical thinkers choose the least misaligned path. Another reason values guide decisions is simplification of complexity. Complex decisions collapse into simple alignment checks. Analytical thinkers ask, does this violate anything essential? Does this move me toward or away from what matters? Another role of values is adaptive consistency. Values remain stable while tactics change. Analytical thinkers evolve methods without losing direction. Another reason values matter is integrity under uncertainty. Integrity is alignment when no one is watching. Analytical thinkers choose integrity consistently. The core lesson of this chapter is this: logic determines how to act. Values determine whether you should. When logic fails to deliver certainty, values provide orientation. In the next chapter, we will explore why people feel lost even when they're successful, and how misaligned values create emptiness despite external achievement. Logic can calculate outcomes. Values determine whether outcomes are worth having. Chapter 4: Why People Feel Lost Even When They're Successful. Success is supposed to feel fulfilling. That is the promise most people are sold. Work hard. Achieve goals. Reach milestones. Feel satisfied. Yet many people arrive at success only to feel strangely empty, disconnected, or directionless. Analytical thinkers understand why this happens. Success without meaning does not create fulfillment. It creates confusion. The first reason people feel lost after achieving success is goal completion void. Goals provide structure, urgency, and direction. When a major goal is reached, that structure disappears. If no deeper purpose exists beneath the goal, the mind loses orientation. Analytical thinkers build meaning beneath goals, not inside them. Another reason success feels hollow is external definition of achievement. Many people pursue goals they inherited from culture, family, or comparison. When these goals are achieved, they do not resonate internally. Analytical thinkers define success internally before pursuing it. Another cause of post-success emptiness is identity over investment. When identity becomes tied to achievement, success creates instability. Once the achievement is complete, identity has nowhere to stand. Analytical thinkers ground identity in values, not accomplishments. Another reason people feel lost is misaligned effort. Effort invested in outcomes that violate personal values produces internal conflict. Even successful outcomes feel wrong. Analytical thinkers evaluate alignment, not just results. Another cause is hedonic adaptation. The emotional high of success fades quickly. Without meaning, there is nothing left when the novelty disappears. Analytical thinkers expect adaptation and plan beyond it. Another reason success feels empty is lack of contribution. Achievement without contribution often feels self-contained. Analytical thinkers connect success to service, impact, or responsibility. Another cause is absence of direction after arrival. Success marks an endpoint, not a path. Without a next direction rooted in values, people drift. Analytical thinkers treat success as a checkpoint, not a destination. Another reason people feel lost is comparison distortion. Even after success, comparison continues. Someone else always appears further ahead. Analytical thinkers measure alignment, not relative position. Another cause is value neglect during pursuit. People sacrifice values for success, assuming fulfillment will compensate later. It rarely does. Analytical thinkers protect values throughout the process. Another reason success feels disorienting is meaning outsourcing. People expect success to generate meaning automatically. Meaning does not emerge from outcomes. It emerges from intention. Analytical thinkers create meaning deliberately. Another cause is role exhaustion. Success often requires sustaining a role. Over time, that role may no longer reflect who someone is becoming. Analytical thinkers allow roles to evolve. Another reason people feel lost is narrow success framing. Success measured by a single domain creates imbalance. Analytical thinkers evaluate success holistically. Another cause is emotional suppression during pursuit. Ignoring emotional signals to achieve success creates backlog. Once success arrives, suppressed emotion resurfaces. Analytical thinkers process emotion continuously. Another reason success feels empty is lack of narrative coherence. Achievements feel disconnected without a meaningful story. Analytical thinkers integrate achievements into a larger narrative. Another cause is misinterpreting comfort as fulfillment. Comfort reduces stress but does not create meaning. Analytical thinkers distinguish comfort from purpose. Another reason people feel lost is abandoned curiosity. Success can trap people into repeating what worked. Curiosity fades. Analytical thinkers preserve curiosity intentionally. Another cause is fear of change after success. Success creates pressure to maintain status. This fear freezes growth. Analytical thinkers allow evolution. Another reason success feels hollow is disconnection from values over time. Values shift. Old goals may no longer fit. Analytical thinkers reassess values periodically. Another cause is achievement without agency. Success that feels forced or constrained reduces fulfillment. Analytical thinkers maintain agency even within success. Another reason people feel lost is misplaced sacrifice justification. Sacrifices made for success may not feel worth it afterward. Analytical thinkers choose sacrifices consciously. Another cause is meaning vacuum exposure. Success removes struggle, revealing what was missing underneath. Analytical thinkers build meaning before struggle ends. Another reason success feels confusing is pressure to feel satisfied. Feeling empty after success creates guilt. Analytical thinkers normalize this experience. Another cause is identity lag. External success changes faster than internal identity. Analytical thinkers update identity gradually. Another reason people feel lost is lack of values-based direction. Without values, there is no reason to continue forward. Analytical thinkers rely on values for direction. The core lesson of this chapter is this: success solves problems. Meaning solves direction. People feel lost after success not because they failed, but because achievement alone cannot answer the question, what now? In the next chapter, we will explore clarifying values without turning them into rigid rules, and how analytical thinkers define values that guide decisions without trapping them. Success can open doors. Values decide which ones are worth walking through. Chapter 5. Clarifying values without turning them into rules. Values are meant to guide life. But when misunderstood, they can quietly restrict it. Many people turn values into rigid rules, fixed standards they feel pressured to obey perfectly. When this happens, values stop providing clarity and start creating guilt, fear, and self-judgment. Analytical thinkers understand an important distinction. Values are directions, not commands. They orient behavior without imprisoning it. The first mistake people make is treating values as moral checklists. They ask, did I live up to my values today? Did I violate my values? This framing turns values into pass-fail tests. Analytical thinkers use values as compasses, not scorecards. Another common error is confusing values with goals. Goals are specific and measurable. Values are broad and enduring. When values are treated like goals, people feel they are constantly failing. Analytical thinkers keep values abstract enough to remain flexible. Another mistake is over-specifying values. When values become too detailed, they lose adaptability. Analytical thinkers define values at the level of principle, not behavior. Another issue is value absolutism. People believe values must be followed in all situations. Real life is contextual. Analytical thinkers recognize that values sometimes compete and require prioritization. Another error is using values to judge past selves. People retroactively criticize themselves for not living up to current values. Analytical thinkers allow values to evolve. Another trap is outsourcing values. People adopt values from culture, ideology, or authority without reflection. Analytical thinkers clarify values through lived experience. Another mistake is confusing values with identity labels. Values describe orientation, not personality. Analytical thinkers avoid rigid self-definitions. Another issue is value inflation. People claim too many values. When everything matters, nothing guides decisions. Analytical thinkers prioritize a small number of core values. Another error is turning values into constraints instead of guides. Values should expand meaningful options, not eliminate flexibility. Analytical thinkers ask how values inform choice, not forbid it. Another trap is using values as justification tools. People selectively invoke values to defend preferred outcomes. Analytical thinkers apply values consistently, even when inconvenient. Another mistake is expecting values to eliminate discomfort. Aligned decisions can still feel uncomfortable. Analytical thinkers accept discomfort without abandoning values. Another issue is value rigidity during change. Life evolves. Values must adapt without losing essence. Analytical thinkers revisit values periodically. Another trap is confusing value conflict with value failure. Conflicts between values are inevitable. Analytical thinkers resolve conflicts through prioritization, not abandonment. Another error is using values as external signals. Values expressed for appearance lose internal power. Analytical thinkers live values quietly. Another issue is treating values as moral superiority. Values are personal, not hierarchical. Analytical thinkers respect pluralism. Another mistake is over-moralizing choices. Not every decision reflects values. Analytical thinkers reserve values for high-impact decisions. Another trap is demanding consistency across all contexts. Different contexts require different expressions of the same value. Analytical thinkers allow contextual variation. Another error is freezing values in language. Words lose nuance over time. Analytical thinkers revisit definitions. Another issue is punishing deviation. Temporary deviation does not erase values. Analytical thinkers course-correct gently. Another mistake is ignoring value trade-offs. Choosing one value may temporarily reduce another. Analytical thinkers accept trade-offs consciously. Another trap is turning values into performance metrics. Living by values is not a performance. Analytical thinkers internalize alignment. Another error is expecting values to answer every question. Values guide direction, not detail. Analytical thinkers combine values with judgment. Another issue is mistaking values for certainty. Values do not eliminate ambiguity. Analytical thinkers act without complete certainty. Another trap is clinging to outdated values. Growth may require re-evaluation. Analytical thinkers update values responsibly. Another error is using values to avoid responsibility. Values guide choice, but responsibility remains. Analytical thinkers own outcomes. Another issue is moral exhaustion. Over-monitoring values drains energy. Analytical thinkers live values naturally. Another trap is equating values with virtue signaling. Values lose power when broadcasted excessively. Analytical thinkers practice quietly. Another mistake is expecting values to produce immediate clarity. Clarity emerges through application. Analytical thinkers learn values by using them. Another issue is value inconsistency shame. Inconsistency is human. Analytical thinkers aim for direction, not perfection. Another trap is values as identity prisons. Values should evolve with growth. Analytical thinkers remain adaptable. The core lesson of this chapter is this: values are meant to guide movement, not freeze it. Analytical thinkers define values broadly, apply them contextually, revisit them periodically, use them to orient decisions, allow flexibility without abandoning direction. Values function best when they inform judgment without replacing it. In the next chapter, we will explore making decisions you can live with long-term, and how values help people choose options that minimize regret, even when outcomes are uncertain. Values don't demand perfection. They provide orientation. Chapter 6: Making decisions you can live with long-term. Most decisions are judged too quickly. People ask, "Did this work? Did I succeed? Was this the right choice?" These questions focus on outcome, not sustainability. Analytical thinkers ask a different question: can I live with this decision over time? This question changes everything. A decision can fail externally and still be correct internally. A decision can succeed externally and still feel wrong. Long-term peace comes from alignment, not outcomes. The first reason people struggle with long-term decision satisfaction is outcome fixation. They evaluate decisions based solely on results. But outcomes depend on variables beyond control. Analytical thinkers evaluate decisions based on process integrity. Another source of regret is value violation. Most long-term regret does not come from bad results. It comes from acting against personal values. Analytical thinkers prioritize decisions that preserve self-respect. Another reason decisions become difficult to live with is short-term pressure compliance. People agree to things to avoid discomfort. The discomfort disappears. The commitment remains. Analytical thinkers resist pressure-driven decisions. Another source of regret is identity misalignment. Decisions that force someone to become a version of themselves they dislike create internal conflict. Analytical thinkers ask, who does this require me to be? Is that someone I respect? Another reason people struggle is irreversibility blindness. Some decisions close doors permanently. Analytical thinkers treat irreversible decisions with caution. Another cause of regret is emotional decision timing. Decisions made during emotional peaks feel wrong later. Analytical thinkers delay irreversible decisions when emotional intensity is high. Another source of long-term discomfort is overpromising. People commit beyond capacity. Analytical thinkers commit conservatively. Another reason decisions haunt people is boundary erosion. Saying yes once becomes an expectation. Analytical thinkers protect boundaries early. Another cause of regret is outsourced decision-making. Decisions made to please others feel empty later. Analytical thinkers retain authorship. Another reason decisions feel heavy over time is lack of contingency planning. When things go wrong, people feel trapped. Analytical thinkers plan exits. Another source of regret is ignoring future self-impact. The present self decides. The future self pays. Analytical thinkers consider future burden. Another reason decisions are hard to live with is narrative collapse. When the story behind a decision no longer makes sense, discomfort follows. Analytical thinkers build decisions that remain defensible over time. Another cause of regret is moral shortcutting. Justifying decisions to escape discomfort creates lasting unease. Analytical thinkers choose integrity over relief. Another reason people regret decisions is over-optimization. Trying to extract maximum benefit increases fragility. Analytical thinkers choose robustness. Another source of discomfort is identity drift. Decisions made under old values feel wrong under new ones. Analytical thinkers revisit decisions with compassion, not judgment. Another reason decisions linger painfully is misaligned sacrifice. Sacrifices that do not reflect values feel wasted. Analytical thinkers choose sacrifices consciously. Another cause of regret is false urgency. Decisions rushed to meet artificial deadlines feel wrong later. Analytical thinkers verify urgency. Another reason people struggle to live with decisions is comparison aftermath. Seeing alternative paths later triggers doubt. Analytical thinkers accept opportunity cost. Another source of discomfort is lack of closure. Unresolved decisions create mental residue. Analytical thinkers define closure criteria. Another reason decisions haunt people is confusing courage with recklessness. Bold actions without alignment create regret. Analytical thinkers choose grounded courage. Another cause is self-betrayal accumulation. Small misalignments compound. Analytical thinkers prevent drift early. Another reason decisions feel heavy is over-identification with outcome. Failure feels personal. Analytical thinkers separate identity from results. Another source of regret is conflict avoidance. Avoiding short-term conflict creates long-term discomfort. Analytical thinkers tolerate discomfort early. Another reason decisions become difficult to live with is unclear intention. Without intention, outcomes feel arbitrary. Analytical thinkers articulate intent before acting. Another cause of regret is values ambiguity at decision time. Unclear values produce unstable choices. Analytical thinkers clarify values first. Another reason people regret decisions is ignoring internal resistance. Persistent internal resistance signals misalignment. Analytical thinkers listen carefully. Another source of discomfort is commitment escalation. People double down to avoid admitting misalignment. Analytical thinkers allow revision. Another reason decisions linger is fear of responsibility. Blaming circumstances avoids accountability. Analytical thinkers own choices. Another cause of regret is post-decision rumination. Replaying alternatives erodes peace. Analytical thinkers limit rumination through acceptance. Another reason decisions are hard to live with is value inconsistency across domains. Work decisions violate personal values. Analytical thinkers integrate values across life. Another source of regret is self-disrespect. Decisions that undermine dignity linger painfully. Analytical thinkers protect dignity. The core lesson of this chapter is this: a good decision is one you can stand behind, even if it fails. Analytical thinkers aim for decisions that preserve self-respect, align with values, allow recovery, minimize regret, remain defensible over time. Outcomes change. Alignment endures. In the next chapter, we will explore values-based consistency and inner stability, and how people who live by values remain steady even when circumstances shift. Peace does not come from certainty. It comes from living with your choices. Chapter 7: Values-based consistency and inner stability. Consistency is often misunderstood as rigidity. People imagine consistent individuals as strict, inflexible, or overly disciplined. In reality, the strongest form of consistency is not behavioral repetition, it is value alignment. Analytical thinkers understand a crucial distinction. Behavior changes. Values stabilize. Inner stability does not come from doing the same thing every day. It comes from acting in ways that remain aligned with what matters, even as circumstances shift. This is why values-based thinkers appear calm while others oscillate. The first reason values create inner stability is decision simplification. When values are clear, decisions require less emotional energy. Analytical thinkers do not renegotiate core principles repeatedly. They conserve cognitive resources. Another reason values stabilize behavior is reduced self-conflict. Inconsistency often comes from internal disagreement. Values resolve disagreement before action is required. Analytical thinkers experience fewer internal debates. Another source of stability is emotional buffering. When external conditions change, emotions fluctuate. Values remain constant. Analytical thinkers rely on values when emotions spike. Another reason values-based consistency works is identity coherence. People feel unstable when their actions contradict who they believe they are. Analytical thinkers align action with identity, reducing fragmentation. Another stabilizing factor is pressure resistance. Under pressure, people often abandon principles to seek relief. Values-based thinkers tolerate discomfort without abandoning alignment. Another reason values provide consistency is long-term orientation. Short-term fluctuations lose power when decisions are framed across time. Analytical thinkers evaluate alignment, not momentary comfort. Another stabilizing effect is reduced external dependency. Approval, validation, and feedback fluctuate. Values do not. Analytical thinkers act independently of applause. Another reason values support consistency is boundary clarity. Clear boundaries reduce emotional negotiation. Analytical thinkers know where lines are drawn. Another stabilizing factor is adaptive flexibility. Values guide direction while allowing method changes. Analytical thinkers adapt tactics without losing purpose. Another reason values stabilize effort is burnout prevention. Burnout often results from sustained value violation. Analytical thinkers rest or adjust when misalignment appears. Another source of inner stability is predictability of self. People trust themselves more when behavior aligns with values. Analytical thinkers build self-trust over time. Another reason values create calm is conflict reduction. External conflict is easier to navigate when internal alignment exists. Analytical thinkers handle disagreement without losing equilibrium. Another stabilizing effect is reduced regret accumulation. Consistent alignment reduces lingering self-doubt. Analytical thinkers recover faster after setbacks. Another reason values support consistency is emotional containment. Values prevent emotion from dictating behavior. Analytical thinkers feel emotions fully without acting impulsively. Another source of stability is clarity during ambiguity. Uncertainty destabilizes people without direction. Values provide orientation even when outcomes are unclear. Another stabilizing factor is self-respect maintenance. Acting against values erodes self-respect. Analytical thinkers protect dignity deliberately. Another reason values-based consistency works is noise filtering. Trends, opinions, and pressure lose influence. Analytical thinkers remain anchored. Another source of stability is moral confidence without arrogance. Values provide quiet confidence. Analytical thinkers do not need to justify alignment loudly. Another stabilizing effect is decision aftermath peace. Aligned decisions reduce rumination. Analytical thinkers move forward without replaying choices endlessly. Another reason values support inner calm is resilience to outcome swings. Success and failure affect mood, not identity. Analytical thinkers stay steady through both. Another stabilizing factor is long-term coherence. Actions across years form a coherent narrative. Analytical thinkers avoid fragmentation. Another reason values-based consistency works is emotional honesty. Values allow people to acknowledge discomfort without abandoning direction. Analytical thinkers accept feelings without obedience. Another source of inner stability is reduced comparison. Values make comparison irrelevant. Analytical thinkers evaluate alignment, not ranking. Another stabilizing effect is trust in self-correction. Values allow course correction without shame. Analytical thinkers adjust without self-punishment. Another reason values support consistency is freedom from performative behavior. Actions are not performed for image. Analytical thinkers act authentically. Another source of stability is clarity in sacrifice. Sacrifice feels meaningful when values justify it. Analytical thinkers accept sacrifice without resentment. Another stabilizing factor is non-reactivity. Values slow reaction time. Analytical thinkers respond deliberately. Another reason values create consistency is integrity under observation. Behavior remains consistent whether watched or not. Analytical thinkers act the same privately and publicly. Another source of inner stability is direction without urgency. Values provide movement without panic. Analytical thinkers progress steadily. Another stabilizing effect is self-alignment across roles. Work, relationships, and personal life reflect shared principles. Analytical thinkers avoid compartmentalized identity. Another reason values-based consistency works is meaning preservation. Meaning stabilizes effort when motivation fades. Analytical thinkers continue without inspiration. Another source of calm is acceptance of imperfection. Values guide direction, not perfection. Analytical thinkers forgive deviation. Another stabilizing factor is emotional grounding. Values ground emotion in purpose. Analytical thinkers feel deeply without losing direction. The core lesson of this chapter is this: inner stability does not come from control. It comes from alignment. Analytical thinkers remain consistent not because they are rigid, but because they know what matters. In the final chapter, we will explore living intentionally without chasing certainty, and how values-based thinkers move forward even when answers remain incomplete. Stability is not stillness. It is direction held steady over time. Chapter 8: Living intentionally without chasing certainty. Most people spend their lives chasing certainty. They want guarantees before acting. They want clarity before committing. They want reassurance before moving forward. This pursuit feels rational. It is not. Analytical thinkers understand a difficult but liberating truth. Certainty is not a prerequisite for a meaningful life. It is often the enemy of intentional living. Certainty promises safety, but it rarely arrives, and when it does, it is usually too late to matter. Intentional living does not wait for certainty. It moves forward with values, judgment, and acceptance of risk. The first mistake people make is confusing certainty with responsibility. They believe waiting protects them from blame or regret. In reality, waiting often transfers regret into the future. Analytical thinkers accept responsibility without certainty. Another trap is information hoarding. People delay action while seeking more data. But some questions cannot be answered in advance. Analytical thinkers recognize when information has diminishing returns. They act when values are clear, even if outcomes are not. Another illusion is decision paralysis disguised as prudence. Indecision feels cautious. Over time, it becomes avoidance. Analytical thinkers distinguish caution from stagnation. Another error is outsourcing certainty to authority. People look for experts to remove doubt. But experts disagree. Analytical thinkers seek perspective, not permission. Another trap is future-proofing fantasies. People want decisions that guarantee success. No such decisions exist. Analytical thinkers choose robustness over certainty. Another mistake is waiting for emotional readiness. Readiness rarely precedes action. It follows it. Analytical thinkers act despite emotional uncertainty. Another illusion is certainty through comparison. Seeing others choose confidently creates pressure. But confidence is often performance, not knowledge. Analytical thinkers focus inward. Another trap is mistaking clarity for comfort. Clarity does not eliminate discomfort. Analytical thinkers accept discomfort as part of alignment. Another error is treating uncertainty as failure. Uncertainty is the default state of complex systems. Analytical thinkers operate within uncertainty skillfully. Another illusion is binary decision framing. People believe choices are right or wrong. Most decisions are partial, revisable, and contextual. Analytical thinkers allow adjustment. Another trap is fear of regret masquerading as rationality. Avoiding regret becomes the goal. Ironically, avoidance creates regret. Analytical thinkers accept that regret is sometimes unavoidable. Another error is chasing certainty to avoid responsibility. Certainty removes ownership. Intentional living embraces ownership. Another illusion is control over outcomes. People delay until they feel in control. Control is limited. Analytical thinkers focus on influence. Another trap is perfectionism disguised as values. Values guide direction, not flawless execution. Analytical thinkers move imperfectly. Another error is confusing certainty with meaning. Certainty feels calming. Meaning feels grounding. Analytical thinkers prioritize meaning. Another illusion is waiting for life to make sense first. Life gains coherence through action, not contemplation. Analytical thinkers create meaning by engaging. Another trap is over-intellectualizing purpose. Purpose is lived, not solved. Analytical thinkers test purpose through action. Another error is delaying alignment for optimization. Perfect alignment is rare. Good alignment is enough. Analytical thinkers act when alignment is sufficient. Another illusion is security through delay. Delay does not guarantee safety. Analytical thinkers choose calculated risk. Another trap is certainty seeking through identity labels. Labels simplify uncertainty, but they limit growth. Analytical thinkers allow identity to evolve. Another error is treating uncertainty as weakness. Admitting uncertainty feels vulnerable. Analytical thinkers treat it as honesty. Another illusion is waiting for confidence. Confidence grows through action. Analytical thinkers act without it. Another trap is avoiding decisions to avoid consequences. Consequences arrive regardless. Analytical thinkers choose consequences intentionally. Another error is overestimating the cost of being wrong. Being misaligned costs more than being wrong. Analytical thinkers prioritize alignment. Another illusion is certainty as peace. Peace comes from integrity, not prediction. Analytical thinkers act with integrity. Another trap is using uncertainty as justification for inaction. Uncertainty is not a stop sign. It is a condition. Analytical thinkers move within it. Another error is confusing decisiveness with certainty. Decisiveness is commitment, not knowledge. Analytical thinkers commit responsibly. Another illusion is waiting for a final answer. Life offers chapters, not conclusions. Analytical thinkers live iteratively. Another trap is certainty addiction. Certainty feels good, but it narrows life. Analytical thinkers tolerate ambiguity. Another error is abandoning values when certainty is absent. Values matter most when certainty disappears. Analytical thinkers rely on them. Another illusion is clarity as permission. Permission does not arrive. Analytical thinkers give it to themselves. The final lesson of this audiobook, and this entire series, is this. A meaningful life is not built on certainty. It is built on intentional action guided by values. Analytical thinkers act without guarantees. Choose alignment over reassurance. Accept uncertainty as normal. Take responsibility without certainty. Adjust without panic. Live deliberately, not reactively. Certainty promises comfort. Meaning provides direction. And direction is enough to move forward, even when the path ahead remains unclear.